Let's talk about New York City, a place full of skyscrapers and a lot of unsavory creatures.
Hey fellas, look what I found in my pocket, look! A year's salary right here!
But there's one thing that helps keep this city ticking along. No, not $1 pizza slices, but it's Subway. And today, we'll tell you the story of how this system came to evolve into one of the world's biggest movers of people. It's the 19th century and New York City was growing at a rapid pace, and with that, its existing roads were getting clogged up with traffic. The idea of an underground rapid transit system went as far back as 1870, with a 312-foot tunnel under Broadway being constructed, forming part of the Beach Pneumatic Transit, but was eventually closed after 3 years of operation. In reality, New Yorkers were lukewarm to the idea of underground public transportation, with folk believing that the tunnels could collapse or they could catch tuberculosis from the stagnant air in the tunnels. Eventually the benefits of underground transportation would come to light in March of 1888, when a huge snowstorm dubbed the Great White Hurricane completely paralysed the city and its above ground railways, and from thereafter the seeds were sown for a subway. At the start of the 20th century, the city had an expansive network of elevated rail lines built by private companies, but when it came to building an underground rail line, none of these companies would come forward with the capital to build a system beneath the streets, so it would be left to the city authorities to build one. Through a series of bond issuing, the city would raise the funds to build the railway, but would get the private company, the Interborough Rapid Transit, who were running the elevated railways in Manhattan, to run the service, with both parties sharing in the profits and a guaranteed 5-cent fixed fare. The first section of subway, which formed the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, opened on the 27th of October 1904, running from City Hall Station in the south of Manhattan up the western side of the island, terminating at 145th Street. This section is still around today, forming part of lines 1, 2 and 3, with the exception of City Hall Station, which was closed in 1948 and has now become a magnet to attract all form of hipsters. The line was constructed using the cut and cover technique, which saw the roads above being dug up to construct the subway below, before using the I-beams to secure the ceiling of the tunnels and then being patched up above for the roads to be reopened. The first section was rapidly expanded on, and by 1908 the system had extended into the Bronx and Brooklyn. The ITR were not the only players on the block, but there was another company called the Brooklyn Rapid Transit, who, as you can guess, ran all the subway services within Brooklyn, but as they saw the ITR getting all the Manhattan traffic, the BTR wanted a slice of that too. This resulted in an agreement between the ITR, BTR and the city, dubbed the dual contracts, which allowed the companies to operate the subways built within the city for 49 years. In the 1930s, there was a strong movement for the network to be brought under city ownership, and this would lead to the construction of new lines, but this time they would be run by the city government, called the Independent Subway System, or IND for short. The government would eventually get its wish in 1940, when the whole system was taken over city control, but its control couldn't keep hold of the 5-cent fare, which was increased to 10 and eventually to 15 cents in 1953. However, the legacy of the private companies is still around today, with each of the current lines' names starting with the prefix of IND, ITR or BTM, a reminder to its original roots. After the war, expansion of the system eventually grinded to a screeching halt after the opening of the Far Rockaway line, which even then didn't include any new track. With the new era of public control, the system would suffer from chronic underinvestment, which would lead to a decline in the network and passenger numbers for over 30 years. Until the mid-1980s, when improvements in the system started to show its effects. Moving into the 21st century, and New York City's fortunes have become vastly different to 30 years before, and with that, plans were in the pipeline to extend the network for the first time in over 70 years. The first of these was the extension of the 7 line to Hudson Yards, which opened in 2015, and the second was the much awaited 2nd Avenue subway, which has been in the pipeline for nearly 100 years. Currently only the first phase of the line has been constructed, with the second phase currently in the design stages, with the full line having an estimated completion date of God knows when. As of 2022, the New York subway is one of the world's most notable systems, consisting of 36 lines and 472 stations, being by far the most of any network on the planet, and has been the backdrop for many a memorable moment like these.